Tom Taylor crafts a gripping and terrifying tale featuring our beloved, now morally compromised superheroes. DC Comics has often explored apocalyptic scenarios, but this is a true, full-scale end-of-the-world event on Earth. At first glance, it might seem like just another zombie comic book plot. But once you dive into the pages, you quickly realize it's far more complex. Zombies alone would be too simple. DC gives their own unique twist to the concept, making it a captivating narrative. It surpassed my expectations time and time again, and I couldn't put it down. Nearly every hero you can imagine makes an appearance, and their downfall is laid bare. Some moments are deeply emotional and shockingly intense. In an instant, everything changes, and before you know it, one of your favorite heroes is infected. Taylor doesn't hold back on the brutal deaths of our heroes. The story is a fast-paced, enjoyable, yet horrifying read, featuring a wide variety of heroes and characters on every page. We get glimpses of almost everyone. For a comic series that spans just 6 issues, the storyline is outstanding. We witness the downfall of many heroes with no time to dwell on the losses, as there's so much to cover in so little space. Yet it never feels hurried. The story strikes a perfect balance, funny when it needs to be, predominantly horrifying and overwhelmingly emotional at times. This story offers a fresh and brilliant spin on the anti-life equation, unlike anything done before. It presents a completely new angle. Here, the anti-life equation is depicted as a techno-organic virus that infiltrates social media, infecting anyone who views it. As the equation takes over, terrified people desperately try to rip it from their minds, but ultimately become enslaved. They resemble zombies in almost every way. The key difference is, the infected don't attack each other out of hunger. They kill. They spread death, stealing life, becoming anti-living beings triggered by the anti-life equation. Prepare yourself for a wild ride, because some of these characters' fates will hit you hard. Right from the start, we're thrust into a fierce battle between the Justice League and Darkseid. On the first page, Superman shatters Darkseid's jaw. We only witness the conclusion of Darkseid's fight. This series emphasizes the aftermath of the conflict rather than the battle itself. We're told about Darkseid's massive invasion and the Justice League's relentless efforts against parademons and deities beforehand. Then, the Justice League simply lets Darkseid go. He claims he's achieved his goal and departs. Soon after his exit, they discover Cyborg is missing, and Batman tracks him down. The next scene reveals Cyborg strapped to an operating table, with DCeased standing over him. He remains unfazed, responding with clever comebacks to everything. Irritated, Darkseid orders Cyborg's tongue to be removed. This is the moment you realize just how gritty these comics are about to become. Darkseid cracks the anti-life equation, and the consequences are catastrophic. He took a piece of death embodied by the Black Racer and altered the equation. This was, without a doubt, Darkseid's downfall. It led to him diving into the core of Apocalypse, which ultimately resulted in the destruction of his home planet. Meanwhile, Cyborg is sent back to Metropolis, going from patient zero to infecting the entire internet with the anti-life equation. Cyborg's body becomes the host, and the plague spreads instantly. Once Superman realizes what's unfolding, Lois Lane, their son John, and Batman's son Damian seek refuge in the Daily Planet, attempting to establish a broadcast signal. Hal Jordan, Oliver Queen, and Dinah were camping just outside the city when Hal became infected. Dinah and Oliver desperately fought against Hal, knowing the odds were against them. But Dinah is forced into a heartbreaking situation, and her canary cry ends up killing Hal. His lantern ring finds its next bearer slipping onto Dinah's finger. Superman hears Dinah's cry and rushes to bring her and Oliver to the Daily Planet. After Clark returns with Dinah and Oliver, they manage to connect with Batman. Bruce had already figured out what was happening and used his sharp observation skills to witness the chaos unfolding in Gotham. He came face to face with an infected Dick Grayson and Robin, Tim Drake. They launched an attack on Bruce as Alfred stood by in utter disbelief. Nightwing finally manages to bite Batman, infecting him as Bruce desperately pleads with Alfred to escape. Bruce then informs Clark, Damian, and the others that he doesn't have much time left. He's been infected and is using one of Mr. Freeze's suits to slow his metabolism, buying himself a little more time. He offers his apologies to Damian, saying it wasn't supposed to end like this for him. After those final words, Bruce succumbs to the virus and becomes infected. This leaves Alfred with no choice but to do the unthinkable. He's forced to kill the only son figure he ever had. Alfred walks past the dead, bloodied bodies of Bruce, Tim, and Dick, weighed down with the regret that he couldn't save his boys. But he doesn't depart without exacting some form of revenge on those monsters who caused him so much pain. Now, an estimated 600 million people worldwide were infected, and at the current pace, that number would reach billions within days. Next, we see that Aquaman has fallen victim to the infection. Unfortunately, Garth inhales the infected blood in the ocean. With no king to stand by her side, Mera seeks refuge on Themyscira. Meanwhile, Superman searches for the two missing speedsters. He tracks down Barry Allen and Wally West, who have been hiding since the outbreak began. Can you imagine two speedsters infected? Think of how many lives could be infected in mere seconds. Back at the Daily Planet, the team successfully broadcasts a message, announcing that the Justice League is regrouping in Metropolis at the Daily Planet. Superman, Wally, and Barry reunite with the others. Alfred hears the broadcast and pilots the Batwing to the Daily Planet. He shares an emotional moment with Damian, grieving the loss of Batman. He gives Damian the Batsuit, telling him that Bruce was proud of him. Suddenly, Hawkwoman crashes down from the sky, warning that Captain Atom is about to detonate. What happens next is a major turning point in the comic, where everything is about to spiral out of control rapidly. We see Captain Atom and Waller following the Plague Protocol, assuming Ray Palmer had shrunk down to a microscopic level and was inside an infected person, examining the virus. Waller orders Captain Atom to go outside and battle the infected while she waits for Ray to return. That's when Captain Atom realizes something is terribly wrong within his own body. We discover that Ray, using the anti-life equation, had entered Captain Atom and started attacking his blood cells, infecting him. Superman and Wonder Woman rush to Washington, D.C. and grab Captain Atom in an instant. They fly him as high as they can before he detonates. The resulting explosion is the most devastating blast ever unleashed on Earth. It is felt and heard across the globe. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Metropolis, all obliterated. Millions wiped out in a matter of moments. Superman and Wonder Woman have always been symbols of hope, no matter how dark the day. But this time, they couldn't save anyone, and the heroes stood frozen in absolute horror. In the following days, they shut down the internet, major servers, and all forms of digital broadcasting. They started building arks to save the remaining human population on Earth. Places like Gotham, thanks to Ivy and her plants, and Themyscira became sanctuaries for survivors. And Paradise Island was paradise no more. Lex Luthor and Cyborg established the Fortress of Solitude as a hub of information for their allies. For the first time since Darkseid's attack, the heroes took a moment to grieve and began to feel a semblance of control. Or so they believed. Their greatest error was bringing all the heroes together. The preceding moment of terror began as a faint buzzing sound. Firestorm heard it first, then it escalated into a scream, followed by an invisible death. Martian Manhunter made his terrifying return as Lex Luthor was ripped in half by him. Then Barry Allen was struck, with a chunk torn from his side. Firestorm quickly neutralized Martian Manhunter with his fire, but the damage had already been done. In an instant, the Flash was gone, spreading infection faster than the speed of sound. Superman knew only he could stop Barry without risking Wally. He intercepted Barry on the other side of the planet, realizing he couldn't catch up to him in a race. That day, we found out what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. The next scene says it all. Barry collided with Superman at supersonic speed and was torn in half. The impact left Superman on the verge of infection, with fragments of Barry's bones lodged in his side. Though Superman could resist the infection longer than anyone, he didn't have much time. He said his farewells and flew as far away as possible, hoping to deprive himself of oxygen before the virus took hold. But before he could escape far enough, he turned. Superman became infected. And so, the world's last beacon of hope was extinguished. Superman had always been a symbol of hope, but the Superman everyone knew was now lost. Damian unveils a plan Batman had left behind to take down Superman. Although well-intentioned, Dinah points out that Batman was never lethal, but they would need to be against Superman. Diana, however, believes her Sword of Athena will be the key to ending him. The team splits up to defend Ivy's jungle, the Arks, and Themyscira. On Themyscira, they had no idea of the deadly force approaching. Queen Hippolyta and Queen Mera watched in dread as something began to rise from the ocean. What happened next, no one could have anticipated. Just when it seemed Aquaman was gone for good, he rose from the seas, commanding the Kraken and leading waves of infected Atlanteans. From half a mile away, Green Arrow loosed an arrow that struck Aquaman directly in the eye, killing the king. The infected from the sea should never have reached Paradise Island. But by raising the seafloor and expanding Themyscira, its hidden sanctuary was exposed to the infected outside world. The heroes were left with no choice but to abandon Themyscira, leaving everyone behind. The Amazons had fallen. Cyborg, Dinah, and Diana rushed to confront Superman. Canary gave everything she had, amplifying her scream in a desperate attempt to bring down Superman. Although brought to his knees by her scream, he recovered quickly and charged at her. Cyborg tried to intervene, but couldn't stop Superman from closing in on her. Diana jumps into the fray in a deadly clash. She cuts off Superman's arm and drives her sword through his stomach. An unhinged Superman retaliated with a final blow, a ferocious punch that went through Diana's stomach, leading to the Amazon warrior's infection and sending her spiraling to the ground. Cyborg catches her and stays behind with Diana, while the others flee to the Arks. When Diana turns, Cyborg binds her with the lasso of truth and asks the virus if it can speak. It responds, revealing to Cyborg that there is a cure, and it resides within him. But before he can act, Diana quickly rushes towards him and brutally rips his head off. Meanwhile, John realizes he is now the only powerful force standing between Superman and the Arks. John flies off at a tremendous speed and collides with Superman at full force, resulting in an immense explosion. Although Superman survived, this gave the remaining heroes just enough time. Dinah calls in the entire Green Lantern Corps, and reinforcements arrive. Superman, now facing the powerful Green Lantern Corps, realizes he can't defeat them all. He begins absorbing the sun's energy instead. As the sun drains and cools, it will die, causing the entire solar system to freeze, which would put the virus into a dormant state. The Arks depart the system to begin anew on Earth 2. And that's how the series concludes, with the surviving heroes and 6 million people seeking refuge on their new home, Earth 2.